What is up, everyone? Today we're going to be looking at the first 7 rental properties that we ever purchased, the headaches that we went through, whether it was worth it, and basically how we tripled the value of them over the past 5 years. Basically looking at all the steps you need to take to increase the value of your real estate, how to not be a slumlord. So let's get right into it. So basically on these properties, I ended up getting it from somebody that I knew. My mom was actually the realtor on the deal. I originally told him that I wasn't interested because I didn't know a whole lot about rental properties and all that. All I had done was flip properties in the past, done a bunch of renovation work. So basically I was convinced to purchase them because he was wanting to get rid of all 7 of them together. He didn't want to be stuck with the last 2 that were sitting vacant. Prices were so low for him. I thought, how could I go wrong with buying all of them? It came out to about $38,000 a piece. So basically I purchased these properties for about $264,000. I ended up putting $3,000 down originally. It was an owner finance deal, so he gave me another 6 months to come up with the other $23,000. I ended up coming up with that by flipping another property in that time frame. We actually closed on them March of 2020. I was extremely stressed. I remember leaving the closing table, reading stuff about COVID, and I thought, oh man, what did I do to myself? This is one that had a fire previously. I think it was the previous owners had caught half the house on fire. This was one of the main reasons he wanted to get rid of them altogether. He was tired of all of it. He was a tired landlord. He was ready to be done. That property actually ended up catching on fire again. This time it was an electrical issue that had been done before we had purchased it. We ended up going in there, fixing the electrical problems, finding out where the issue was. It was actually a funny story on this one. The tenant had actually texted me, calling me. I was at the grocery store with a newborn baby and my wife. I actually thought he was trying to complain to me about something, and I wasn't trying to answer it. He wasn't supposed to have my number. He was supposed to be going through our property manager. And then I got a text saying, your house is about to burn down. I remember thinking, go ahead and burn my house down, like I have insurance on it. He was a new tenant at the time. I didn't know whether they were good or not. Turns out they were really good tenants. They've been there this whole time, no issues. They've been great tenants. We spent about $15,000 between the 2 rehabs, and it appraised for $142,000 recently. We just refinanced it. We got 75% back of that, so that was $106,000 after paying off the loans and everything. So basically we had a profit of $53,000 on that. That would be untaxed just because it's a loan from the bank. If we sold this property, we would need to either 1031 exchange it or end up paying a bunch of back taxes on that. We have $35,000 in equity still. So basically on this property so far, we've made about $89,000 on it, which is pretty good money considering I was stressed out in the beginning, thought this was a horrible idea. So this is the second property. This one was kind of the same deal. This one was unrented. He was sick of this property. Basically it had a tenant, I think, that had gone to jail or something like that. He was tired of this one as well. It hadn't caught on fire, so that was a plus. We ended up spending about $5,000 on the original remodel of this one. Just a few updates, trash out some stuff. Our first tenant was during COVID. They weren't paying the bills from the start. It was a little bit frustrating. Couldn't get him out because of the COVID policies and stuff like that. I was stressing out. I was out of money. We ended up finally getting them out after about 6 months. I had to remodel it again. I was out of money. I was frustrated. Basically, we ended up putting another couple thousand to repaint it, clean everything. We ended up getting another tenant in. We ended up renting to them for a couple of years. After that, we ended up having to remodel it again, so they did do some damages. We ended up putting about another $10,000 into it after our original purchase rehab. That was to paint everything a couple of times. We did some work to the outside. So basically on this one, we were about $38,000 into it on the first original purchase price. We ended up putting about $15,000 into it from rehabs. We ended up selling it for about $120,000 after closing costs and everything, with a total profit of about $58,000 on this one. Looking back at it now, was not very happy with it while this was all going down. That's kind of the story with rentals. Doesn't seem like it's paying off, but in the end, you're paying down mortgage. You're doing a lot of stuff. It just may not seem like it at the time. You just have to stay consistent and stay with it. So now we're going to the third property. Everybody really wanted to purchase. They wanted to purchase this one out of the package deal. They wanted this one because it was Section 8. It was in horrible condition though. I actually didn't know that it was that bad of condition. I bought it without looking at this property. We ended up doing a remodel to it last year. This third property was actually a Section 8. They always paid on time. We didn't have any issues. They didn't ever ask for maintenance requests. That was something that we didn't realize. She wasn't asking for stuff, not because she didn't need it, because she thought she wasn't going to get stuff repaired. This property had had a couple of different owners during that time. I was the newest owner. I guess she didn't know that we would repair stuff. The rehab ended up being about $35,000. That was for a new roof. We ended up doing all new paint, redoing a tile, new floors, new appliances. We did a lot for her. It was way behind. It hadn't been updated in 10 years, so I kind of felt bad for her. That property actually ended up appraising for $164,000. After 75% back on the refinance, we ended up getting $123,000 back. We profited about $50,000, plus we still have about $41,000 in equity on that one. So basically, so far on that one, we're in profit about $91,000 so far. So let's get into the fourth property. This property is actually in really good condition. It's a little bit outdated. There's a tenant there, so we're not going to do anything with it. We've done a little bit of work here and there, a little bit of maintenance, but no real renovations on it. So basically on this one, the only real money we have into it was the original 38 that we purchased it for. We refinanced it. It valued at about $80,000. We got about $60,000 back. We profited about $22,000 on that. We still have $20,000 in equity. So really we have about $42,000 in profit up until this point. So basically we have doubled our money on that one over the past 5 years. Just renting it, had no issues with this one. This is what you want from a rental when you purchase it. I wish they were all that way. So let's get into this fourth property. This one was horrible. We actually ended up having the original tenant on this one. They ended up not paying after, like, immediately after COVID had started, so almost right when I purchased them. With COVID being a thing, it was difficult to get people kicked out. It took a little bit to do, but we ended up getting them out. They stole some appliances. We ended up fixing it up again, doing a quick remodel, painted everything, refinished the floors. We had the new tenant in. They stayed almost a full year, ended up moving out, trashing the house again. I was sick of this. I think that was at the point where the unit was stolen again. We ended up listing it as is because I was out of money at the time. At the same time this was going on, that other one was having issues, so I was done with it. I ended up selling it for $65,000. Between the two rehabs, we had spent about $10,000. So really, I made about $12,000 on this one. I still made money. Was it worth the headache? Probably not. If you include rents and missed rents and stuff like that, I probably only made $5,000 to $10,000 on it. So really, this property was a huge headache, not worth the stress on my life. But I got all these other properties that did make money and were such a success that really it was worth the trouble to get this one. So into the next property. This one was currently rented whenever we purchased it. They were there for about 2 years. We ended up renting it to another tenant. They were there for about a year. They were having issues paying. I was out of money once again on this property. It wasn't in terrible condition and needed a little bit of a remodel, but I knew at the time that the markets were really good in this area, so I kind of just wanted to sell it as is, let somebody else do the remodel, and we ended up selling it for $85,000. We got about $79,000 after closing costs and everything, and we ended up making about $41,000 on this one. So that was a great deal as well. We ended up 1031 exchanging this one, so it was a great deal overall. It was a lot of headache to get to that point, but it was definitely worth it in the end. So this last property, this one was sold with the other one to an institutional investor. It was kind of the same deal. They came up at the same time, so I thought, hey, I'll package these two together, get rid of them. So after a little bit of rehab work, we spent about $3,000 on that. We ended up making $25,000 on this property. We ended up 1031 exchanging these two and also the one that I made $12,000 on into another bigger property. So we ended up not having to pay taxes on that. That's very nice. Push that off to a later date. So also on this last property, it was kind of a huge headache. I liked the tenant. He got into some trouble towards the end, was not paying rent for months and months. He kept calling me. I didn't know what to say. He was supposed to be going through our property manager. It was a horrible ordeal. We had to evict him at the very last moment right before closing. I was hoping that the new buyer would be able to do that, but that was part of the stipulation into the deal. I had done everything I could to work with him. I was out of the money at the time and just needed to get rid of him. Getting this one sold to the institutional buyer, I was happy to be done with it. Between those two properties, I ended up making about $65,000 after all was said and done on those properties. So really, I was happy. I had almost doubled my money between the two. So basically where we are at now, we own 3 of them still. We have great tenants in those 3. That's the Section 8 one. The first property that had caught on fire, those tenants are still still in there. They're great, no issues whatsoever. So basically between all the refinances, all the sales, we've made about $264,000. We've doubled our money so far on the properties. We still have about $96,000 in equity between the 3 properties that we still have. I also did not include any of the rental profit that we've made from these properties. The way I see it, the rental profit is to pay for that property, pay the mortgage, continue to maintain these properties, continue to increase the value. So yes, we have made some money on the rental as well, but I don't like to include that. I like to look at it through all the money that we made through by increasing value and stuff like that. That's where the real money is made in real estate. Hopefully you can at least shoot for 3% increase in value every single year over time. I like to hold properties, let them sit, let them mature, be able to refinance them here and there to get money back out of them. So that's basically how I built my portfolio: buying a property, fixing it up, renting it over time, refinancing it. That's the name of the game. 1031 if you have to, and basically continue to grow where you can. Being a great landlord, that is also a thing. You want all your customers, whether it's somebody you're selling a property to, whether it's somebody you're renting it to, you always want to keep them happy. They're the ones paying your bills. So thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, watch another video, and I'll see y'all in the next one.